Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Today we're talking about Dominion. I mean trains.
Dominion train style.
Yeah, really? Okay, right up. If you've ever played the game Dominion, then you know how to play trains. It's a few more rules. Now, since it's, in my opinion, a fairly blatant copy of Dominion with some additions.
Jumping the gun.
Well, I know, but does that mean you shouldn't play it? Let's take a look. Don't run away. It's not yet just another deck builder. Hang on, come back.
Yes.
At the beginning of trains, each player is going to get 7 of these normal trains in their deck. Essentially, a normal train will give you money. There's a cost for buying a card at the top of the card, and then there is how much money that card gives you when you play it. So whenever you play a normal train, you're going to get money. You also have 2 rail lane cards and 1 station expansion card. What you're going to do each turn of the game, and each turn of the game works out the same way, is you're going to shuffle your deck, and you're going to draw 5 cards from your hand. You're going to see how much money you have, and you're going to be able to use that money to put trains on a board and to buy other cards. You also can play as many action cards as you have in front of you, and each action card will let you do different things. Much of those different things will have to deal with the board that we have. You have a map here. This is a map of Osaka, although there's also a map of Tokyo, and there's other maps that you can get for the game. Now, when you're playing this game, each player is going to have trains of their color, which are cubes, and you'll be starting in different spots on the board, depending on where you want to start, and you're going to get points as the game progresses by building trains. So whenever you play a card that says railing, you can play another train on the board adjacent to a train you already have. To go to these plains here, to go across rivers costs extra money, to go into cities costs money, to go to these other locations here costs money equal to the number on it. And the biggest thing is if you go into a spot where other people already have their trains, you have to pay extra money, and you will also take extra waste. So the terrain here, you'll need to use money to lay rails, but you also need a card that specifically allows you to lay rails, to put rails out. So between the two of those, you need money and you need to put rails out. You'll be constantly building your network. There's also going to be cards that let you put stations out. Stations will go into different cities on the board. Each city can hold a certain number of stations shown by the number of buildings. So you can see most of them are 1s and 2s, and then there's a couple 3s. At the end of the game, you are going to score points equal, depending on how many stations are in a city. So this city here, if I have a station in it, I'd get 2 points. If there's a city with 2 stations, then I get 4 points. And a station with 3 in, I'm going to get 8 points. Also, if I have a train in these spots on the board, these faraway locations, I will get points equal to the number shown in that star. And there's a few other minor restrictions, like some spots are not adjacent to each other, as denoted by this yellow and black line. But this is basically what the board is used for, and there's also for the scoring track around the outside. In every game, there are other cards that players will have access to. This card here is a waste card. Many things in the game will cause you waste. Whenever you put a station out, you'll get a waste. Whenever you buy a victory point card, you'll get a waste. Whenever you build rails, you get a waste. When you build in spots where other people have railways, you get waste. It's easy to get waste in this game, and these waste cards go into your deck. Now, the way this game works, if you've never played a game like Dominion or any deck building game, is, remember I said you have those 5 cards, you play as much money as you want, you play as many actions as you want, then you discard your whole hand. Regardless of whatever you used or didn't use, you discard it all. Then you'll draw 5 new cards. When you run through your deck, you will take your discard pile, shuffle it, make a new deck. So you're constantly buying new cards to put in your deck. Having these waste cards added to your deck is going to be a real pain in the neck because they're worth nothing. so you want to get rid of those. There are also buildings you can buy to put in your deck. These are worth nothing during the game, but at the end of the game are worth 1, 2, and 4 points respectively. Then you can also buy more station expansions and rail laying cards. These are available in every single game. And then you can buy better trains. Express trains and limited express trains are expensive, $3 and $6, but they'll give you $2 and $3 every time that you pull them. Now, the whole game is based on having 8 other cards that you'll play with. And I have a whole pile of cards here to show you, but you're going to pull 8 of these randomly, and then there's a deck of these cards that you can go through. Some of these other cards are trains. You can see here's a tourist train, which only gives you $1 just like your starting trains, but also gives you a victory point. The rapid train gives you an extra $1 if you've already played a regular train. First train lets you put any cards you buy on top of your pile. A mail train lets you discard cards and gives you a coin for each one. Then there's all sorts of different action cards. Amusement Park gives you basically doubles the value of one of your train cards. Strong Station Master Office lets you double an action card. This one lets you simply draw 2 cards and also acts as $1 that you can spend. There are cards that let you get rid of waste. You can see here, return all the waste cards in your hand for a landfill action. Or this one, when this card's in play, you don't take any waste cards no matter what happens. The freight train lets you get rid of waste cards for money. Then there are other cards that when you use them, you don't have to pay the extra cost to go over mountains or rivers and such. And they also act as a rail laying card. You can skip your whole turn basically and get rid of as many waste cards in your hand as you want, and you're going to keep going till one of 3 things happens. Either 4 of the starting decks will be gone. Remember, there'll be 8 of these decks and then these other starting decks. When 4 of those decks are gone, not counting waste, the game will end. Or, and more likely, when either all the stations are out on the board or when one person has all their trains on the board. At that point, the game will end. You will add your points that you've scored during the game, plus any points for cities and things where you have your stations, plus any points you have for these buildings. Whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Okay, you can see there that it is essentially Dominion, and in fact, several of the cards correspond to the cards in Dominion, to the point where one person was calling them silver and gold, and give me a province. In fact, I would say a good half the cards in the game, I'm sure were inspired from some of the better cards in Dominion.
Or blatantly copied.
Yeah, but the rest of the cards deal with that board, and I don't know what it is, that board being there really changes up the game because you can score from the board or you can score from streamlining your deck. Dominion only had that streamlining the deck. And you would think that a deck building game, when you add a board in, would complicate it, and I don't think this one did at all.
No, it actually freed it up a little bit, opened it, broadened its horizons a little bit. I really enjoyed. I am not a Dominion fan. Did not drink the Dominion.
That's true. I did though.
Did not drink the Dominion Kool-Aid. I would have rather played Thunderstone or something else. LCR or something like that. I don't know. But
LCR.
No, it's not that bad. I understand. That's hyperbole. But this guy right here, I would much rather play this than Dominion any day. This is the bee's knees, bro. Compared to Dominion, just go ahead and barbecue up Dominion, throw it out your window, off your roof, with your car. Pick this up.
Not yet. Well, there's 2 things. One, I think that the 2-player game in this is a little off. It's not as good. It's not as tight. That board is not as tight. This is much better as a 3 or 4-player game because of the board. Yeah, I mean, let's make a smaller board, but also a 2-player game is a zero-sum game. If I move into one of your cities, instead of me really getting points, I just cancel yours. Which is not a bad thing, but it's a very different feel than the 4-player game.
Right.
The other thing I'll say is, currently this is a Japanese version, which is fine. It has English writing on the cards, but it's going to be reprinted, and I wonder if it is best for most people watching this review, unless you're crazy and like paying the huge amounts that it is on eBay, wait for the English reprint, because, I mean, I'm glad that they put the different languages on the cards, but they weren't the easiest cards to quickly read. You have to kind of look at it and say, what is that saying?
Yeah.
And all the cards showed pictures of trains.
Right.
And I thought they looked fairly similar.
Made them all bleed together a little bit.
For example, one of the cards is called a circus train, or I forget what it was. The one train gives you a victory point. And a tourist train.
Yes.
And it gives you a victory point. And whenever you play, they get a victory point. But it looks very similar to the train that gives you 1 gold, and so you see them both in your hand, you throw them down, you take your 2 gold, you go on and do whatever, and then you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I missed a victory point somewhere, and that's a big deal in this game.
Yeah.
So those are my only minor quibbles. Other than that, it's fun. I mean, I really like the fact you can go after the board or go after it.
Yeah, the board is what throws it over the edge for me. I mean, Dominion is not a bad game. Don't get me wrong; it just wasn't my cup of tea. When you have the board and the spatial aspect of having your trains go out and cover up certain parts of the board, and then be able to build stations in cities and stuff like that, that's what took it up to a very cool, very palatable level for me.
Do you think that this feels like a train game?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does feel like the train. Feel like a train game, especially if.
Well, you're not transporting any goods.
No, you're not. But you're connecting track. You're connecting. It has a very Ticket to Ride feel to it, with the board aspect. So it's kind of almost like an amalgamation between Ticket to Ride and Dominion. Not so much. Please don't go off the deep end with that statement, but. It had the feel because you're placing your pieces on the board, and you're not connecting routes or anything like that, but it has that same flavor to it, and that really worked.
I do hope that whoever reprints this takes out the cubes and puts in little trains.
Yes,
we did that in our game, and it really helped out a lot. It just the visual look
add to the flavor.
So here's my final verdict on this. Well, one more thing I want to say, I really like the waste aspect in this game. The waste is constantly coming, and you would think that gets annoying, and it can. But because there are cards that let you deal with it, the fact that you can just chuck it for your whole turn,
right?
Even the one card that lets you convert it to money, that's really it adds to the game, and I liked it a lot. Mm-hmm. My final verdict on this is that I like it a lot, and if it came out with, I say, 2 expansions, it would completely replace Dominion for me.
Yeah.
I like it as it is now, but I mean, there's not enough cards. Dominion just has all those expansions. I love the variety. So if it came out with as much variety as Dominion, then boom, Dominion's gone and this is in.
Yes.
Because it adds that much more for me. Mm-hmm. Well, you sound like you're already throwing Dominion out.
Yes.
But as it is, I'm going to give it 2. I'm going to give it 2 train smokestacks up, even though the trains in this are
electric.
Yeah, I know. Well, so what? What else am I going to? 1 conductor, 1 engineer. I don't know.
I'm giving this 2 train stations up.
Oh, train stations.
If you have Dominion, you should.
You know what? No one ever quotes us on our thumb system in our reviews. All right. Well, anyhow, this is Trains. It's difficult to get right now, but it's coming soon, so keep an eye out for it.
There you go. Go get it when you can.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.